Hello, welcome to the Roundhouse podcast with Paul Sulentrop of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. Thanks for listening. Our guest today is Wichita State baseball coach Brian Green. So we're going to talk about the summer for the Shockers as we're probably, maybe a month or 5 weeks away from fall baseball starting. Brian is entering his second year as baseball coach at Wichita State. He's had a busy summer. Camps, lots of recruiting, and handing out hot dogs at the NBC World Series from his RV parked out in the center field parking lot. Shockers went 32-29 last season, 15-12 in the American Athletic Conference. They tied for third place. A lot of Shockers returning, names you will probably recognize: infielders Jordan Rogers, Cam Johnson, Cam Durnan, catcher Mauricio Millan, first baseman Ryan Callahan, outfielders Jaden Gustafson and Leigh Hayworth, and several pitchers, including Tyler Dobbs and Brady Hamilton. So, Brian, let's take a little bit of a victory lap back in May. Strong finish to the 2023 season, a run to the AAC title game that really seemed to capture the imagination of fans. What does that kind of performance do when you get started in the fall?
Well, it gives us a great opportunity that we got to taste winning, and those things are so hard to replicate, and to be able to be in that arena, be in a championship environment, play for it. Obviously, really disappointing. But when you look back at the season, going 9-1 in our last 10 games in May, to get into the tournament, to knock East Carolina out, beat them twice by 10 runs in the tournament, and just the way that we went about our business in May, after a gut-wrenching, just to be quite honest, miserable April that we weren't ready for, both with the amount of games played, road games, our toughness, just a lot of reasons why we weren't successful in April. But as we enter into year two, we've got a lot of confidence, Paul, both as a coaching staff and with our players. Anytime you can go 9-1 in your last 10 when you need to make a charge. And then when you've got nothing to do but win the tournament and to play for and lose it in extra innings to get walked off, the way that we went about our business last year was very exciting for us, and gave us a lot of pride in what we're doing. And I think the most loud thing for us as we enter into year two are those 24 returners, like you mentioned. So many people right now are entering into the portal, dancing around with different opportunities. Our program goes 5-14 or whatever that April was, a miserable experience, to go 9-1 in May, make a charge in the conference tournament, and to bring essentially your entire team back. We feel speaks loudly about our culture and what's going on here at Wichita State, and that's got us very excited as we enter into year two.
So when you had your exit interviews, talking to people as they were getting ready to head off for the summer, was there a common theme about here's why I'm staying, here's why I want to be back?
Yeah, and that was it too. It was the culture, it was the locker room, it was how we went about our business. We heard from many players how much fun we had. Obviously, winning late is really fun, and the way that we did win late was really fun. But we pride ourselves in having an environment which is fun. It's serious and it's pro-driven. And it's development driven. However, we want to have a good time doing it. And I thought our relationships with our players, between players and coaches and players to players, was some of the best that I've been a part of. And it was particularly exciting because it was year one. And I do apologize for my voice. Yesterday was August 1, which means it was the first time we could get on the phone. So I do have a little bit of dead phone voice. It's August 1, and now we're into 2026s for recruiting, so it doesn't stop. But we had a very positive message to sell to those recruits yesterday on the phone, and we're really excited about who's coming back to wear Shocker uniforms again in 25.
Give people an idea about what that August 1st is like. How many phone calls do you make?
Well, I only made 8, but Coach Overcash, you can triple that, and there's a list of 30, and you spread that out over which coach, whether it's a pitcher, a hitter, or which players just need to hear from us. But you touch as many people as you can, but at the same time, I'm not sure if we'll get into the new rule changes for the rosters for next season, but recruiting is going to drastically change again at the high school level. So we're going to be funneling down small numbers here very soon.
I think we would be negligent if in our the victory lap we didn't mention Caden Favors, who I think having a Friday night guy, so much success Wichita State had, started with having a reliable guy on the mound on Fridays. Caden made the transition from being a reliever most of his time here, really had a nice year. signed with Cleveland Guardians, drafted in the 6th round. How do you put Caden's contribution to this program into perspective?
It speaks volumes about Caden and his family and their buy-in to us, and they were open-armed with us when we got here. That was really great. Couldn't have been more excited about that. But Caden and Coach Claggs, I think that was a very typical senior/new pitching coach relationship. That wasn't rocky, but it was just, there was a level of trust that wasn't quite there yet. You saw that really start to establish in October. And that was about the time we had our Black and Yellow series, which Favors was one of the captains. And that was one of the more special stories that, we all have great stories in coaching. But to watch Caden and not become a good pitcher, which he did. He was a good pitcher the year before. He just had a different role. But what he did from a leadership perspective, he's the reason we played for championship. I'll tell the fans if they haven't heard it, but and I'll probably say this story at the gala, but we get walked off against East Carolina, and now we've got to play another game. Winners going to the championship. I don't know what to say. I wasn't even prepared to go back to the hotel. We were just going to win, and I wasn't prepared for us losing. And Caden asked if he could talk to the team, and I'll keep it clean, but it wasn't clean on the bus. But the message was very simple. He stood up and he told our team, if anyone on this team doesn't think that we're going to do damage against East Carolina this next game, don't get on the bus. And this was a guy who had just thrown 7 innings on 2 days rest, and this same guy was warming up in the bullpen a day later in the event he was going to pitch in the 11th, which he'd asked for the ball. I mean, there was leadership all over the map with Caden Favors, and we saw it develop in front of our eyes, and he's got another jump to make, so I'm really looking forward to seeing him develop in pro ball. But he was one of the major reasons, along with that senior class, that this program stayed intact and even improved.
Definitely. So you talked a lot about adding speed, adding athletic ability to the roster for the upcoming spring. Compare the roster now. Where do you feel like you've added those attributes?
It's a much different roster. Just starting on the infield, we really needed to improve on our skill level, just in terms of hand skills and maybe some baseball IQ things. And if you look at an Eric Fernandez, a transfer out of Miami, a very skilled defender. If you look at a Jordan Black from Johnson County, another skilled defender. We've got a couple of high school kids coming in. Owen Washburn was a big name transfer for us. He was an infielder coming out of high school, and he'll be an older kid. So what we really wanted to do, Paul, was give ourselves the opportunity to get Rogers back out to the outfield where he has got a chance to be a legitimate pro prospect, and then add speed out there. We signed Caleb Duncan and Davis Mousy. Both junior college All-American type players. Mousy was the conference player of the year, led his team to a tremendous year. But both of these guys can fly. Mousy can really run. So for Shocker fans, you're going to see a entirely different outfield of speed this year than you did last year. Last year's team was strength-driven, and we kind of were an OPS, Oakland A type team. Don't make mistakes. Try to hit doubles and homers and see if we can walk and get hit by pitches. The fans are going to see a different team this year. Certainly with those same players coming back, Livy, Mion, Rogers, Lane Hayworth, Gus, who's ripping the cover off the ball in NBC right now. Cam Johnson is too. There's a lot of great players coming back for us who were really good contributors, but we're going to add athleticism and speed to this group. So it's gonna be a little bit different brand of ball this year.
So you mentioned a few names. I want to go back and make sure it's clear for the fans. Owen Washburn is a transfer from Texas Tech. You mentioned Jordan Rogers, who fans would be familiar with. He played on the infield, a lot of second base last year, so he may be in the outfield this year. You also mentioned Josh Livingston, and he had just kind of a fascinating season. Had 20 hits last season in the 28 games in which he played. 16 of those were for extra bases, 11 of those homers. He just caught fire in the AAC tournament, 4 home runs. Take us through Josh's season, his progression, and what that might mean for him coming through the fall and into the spring.
Number one for Livy, and I told him this in our fall exit meeting, but I said, look, Josh, you had a very strange year, and you deserve a ton of credit. I probably should have played him a little bit earlier. My wife told me I was an idiot for not playing him a couple weeks prior. My wife had been literally telling me, Paul, I'm not. This is true to the fans, just being transparent. My wife said, I don't know why you're not playing Livy. That guy's a baller. You need to play him more. You're stupid. That's my wife's quote. And she proved herself right. But we went through a phase. Livy opened up the season. I'm looking at our opening day lineup. He was in the 4-hole, and he was a guy that we really expected to do a lot for us. And he had a superb season at Crowder, and he's a baseball IQ guy. Good hitter, and he can handle left on left. But as the season progressed, his numbers just started going down and down. And then he got the press bug a little bit, and he started pressing. And about the same time, Callahan was hitting, and here came Gannon Snyder, the freshman who hit 340 and was kind of showing that he could hit against left-handed pitching. And so Livy kind of found himself as a part-time player, and he got an opportunity to play again late. And he did it off the bench. I think it was 3 consecutive games he came in off the bench and had these unbelievably tough at-bats. So we finally just said, Coach, you got to start him and stop screwing around. And we gave him the rest of the entire May, and there was no way he was coming out. He was not going to let us take him out. It was one of the best hitters in the conference in May. So you've got Livy coming back, and Mo, and Rogers, and Lane. I mean, these were guys that went off late. Durnan went off late. Cam Johnson at 400 in the month of May. So we got a lot of experience coming back, and older experience. So very excited about that. Livy is definitely one of those guys.
He made the all AAC tournament team with his performance down in Florida. Do you think your wife would be available for a podcast maybe in January? We could kind of get her on the record before the season starts.
Yeah, because she will. She'll take all the credit all the time. But I think if we could put her put the screws to her a little bit earlier and see what she thinks. But my wife loves it. This is a shout to our players. But if you have supreme confidence in your body language, I'm going to hear about it. My wife that I need to be playing you.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Pitchers, Jace Minor and Grant Adler. They're both back after spending last season in the Big 12. Minor at Oklahoma, Adler at the University of Kansas. How does the return of those two help the pitching staff?
Well, that's an exciting story for Shocker fans. I think it speaks to this program and the experience that the kids had and have. And I think our current team maybe getting on the phone with those guys, or when they're talking as players do, saying, hey, the culture's great, you might like it here, who knows. But for those two guys to come back is loud for us. And we're just excited that they were so good here when they were Shockers. And if you look at what Jace did, he threw some of the nastiest stuff that we saw all year out of the bullpen at Oklahoma. He was really, really tough. And we're hoping that we can have a favor story with him, because he's kind of been a multi-role guy himself. We'd like to get him in here and make a run at him just being a flat-out starter. And then Adler was obviously a weekend starter for us 2 years ago. So him, and then you throw in Brady Hamilton and Tyler Dobbs, and then what we did in the portal. We're going into this season hopefully with 6 guys that we feel can start, and we'll have a much different left-handed presence as well. So, but Jace and Grant are going to get thrown right into the fire, and we expect them to be starters for us on the weekends.
So Grant Adler, AAC Newcomer Pitcher of the Year in 2023. Jace Minor was second team All-Conference as a reliever in 2023. So 2 experienced guys with a lot of success who are coming back to the Shocker roster. A lot of freshmen played big roles for this team last season. Why was that group as a whole? What helped their smooth adjustment to college baseball?
Boy, great question. And the answer to that is very simple. It's Seth Stroh, it's Mauricio Mion, it's Rogers, it's Favors. So many times, and especially with new coaching staffs, as I've been a part of now 3 different times, and you tend to see in that locker room early on, guys are trying to grab their territory and draw a line in the sand. And those seniors were committed to having a great experience because it had been a little rocky the year for them. And so they made a point to make sure that everybody was comfortable. And I give all the credit to Seth and Mo and Jordan, in particular, those 3 guys on the position side, and then Caden on the pitch side. And I think it enabled the freshmen to be comfortable. And then, flat out, we had a perfect storm with these freshmen that all decided to come in with a new coaching staff. They all banded together pretty early, and they came in with a lot of confidence and a lot of personality. And Cam Johnson had 1 hit in the fall. He hit 080, so that speaks to his toughness to come back and just stay the course and hit 330. And Lane Hayworth was a guy who didn't play at all. He was always on the chart next to the coaches, and every time we give him an at-bat off the bench, it'd be quality, be tough. He gets a spot start. It's a tough level of at-bats. You give him another one, and now he can't come out either. So I think their comfortability was big, and I think their toughness and their ability to really like baseball enabled them to really perform, especially late.
Summer baseball, is there a returner whose play this summer you've been able to keep track of and it has really caught your eye?
Well, you see what Livy's doing. We were hoping he'd hit more home runs early, but he's starting to drive the ball again. He's kind of like a very similar thing to us. The biggest returning thing that we see has been local, and that's been Gus. Jaden Gustafson is, and I've always thought and said that this guy's going to be a pro if we can continue to develop his arm. You know, he's so physical. He's a really good bat-to-ball guy, but we've been really keeping tabs, and we've got 12, 15 players local, so we've really been paying attention. But if Gus isn't player of this tournament right now, I'd like to see who is. He's going nuts, and he's been doing it for a month, so he's swinging the bat really well. He's the one that's got us really excited to go with those transfer portal guys and to go with the 5 or 6 guys that started for us last year. You know, we go into the fall really excited with a lot less question marks with our lineup. You know, when you look at Owen Washburn as a senior who hit 290 with 8 homers at Texas Tech, or Mousy, who's a JUCO All-American, or Fernandez, who was at Miami. These are guys that have us excited because they've done it at real levels. So very excited what's going on. But Gus has been the one that's really caught our attention the most.
And Josh Livingston has been out in California with, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Arroyo Seco.
Arroyo Seco, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And then Jaden, is he with Hutchinson Monarchs?
Yeah, he's been with them the whole time, so we've actually gotten a chance to see him quite a bit. And you know, that was last year was my first NBC game that I'd been to as a coach, and he homered. So maybe NBC, we just need to change our schedule to the NBC Shockers.
Fall practices, this will be your second year. You've got a good group of returners coming back who have been through it once. How does that make things different this year from last year?
It'll be a much different fall. You know, our tone is always going to be our tone with expectations of fundamentals and being development driven and really paying attention to your skill acquisition and those things. But the fall will be different for us. Last year, we were so in tune with just making sure that we had the team come together, and we spent most, if not all of our time on just the how part and how we were going to look and how we were going to take the field. There'll be a much more of why and what this fall. The skill development stuff will start much earlier. Will be much more baseball driven, fundamentally sound driven earlier. In fact, we'll even start our fall program a week and a half earlier as well. You'll see 2 fall scrimmages. Haven't locked it down yet, but looks like we're going to lock down Dallas Baptist to end the fall like we did last fall, but it'll be here. And then we're going to go on the road early, like first or second week of team practice to Nebraska. So we'll have an opportunity to do both a beginning and an ending to that. But the fall will be much different for us. We'll be teaching more, and we'll be teaching more on the field. It'll be a little less culture driven as we feel like we've got a lot of help of guys who can really express to everybody else this is how we do it around here.
So fall baseball significant at Wichita State. You'll get fans that want to come out and watch. Give fans some tips. Who are some of the newcomers that they should be paying attention to if they get out here this fall?
Boy, there's going to be some fun ones. Hunter Carlson, haven't mentioned him, but he's a high school player that we signed who's he's got all the look and makings of a guy who's got a chance to be really special. Good catch-throw guy, really athletic body, he can hit. And obviously Mo is our guy, but he's a freshman you're going to want to watch. I've mentioned Mousy a couple times, but he's a center fielder who can really go get it. I don't know if he'll be in center, left, or right, where he'll be working out, but he's a new player that you're going to be excited to see. Out of the portal, certainly Owen Washburn is going to be an exciting player for our fans to see because he's performed and had at least 100 at-bats in each of his two seasons when he was healthy at Texas Tech. Fans are going to really enjoy seeing him. And then on the mound, those guys that were here a couple years ago, they're going to be fun to watch. Yeah, and Paul, there's a couple of arms that we just can't quite announce yet, but that we're in the makings of cutting a deal and making that thing secured. But the portal has been really good for us, and I think that's going to be an exciting thing. You're looking at a shortstop from Miami who's coming in who can really field it, and Eric Fernandez, he's a new player. Fans are going to certainly like him. Jordan Black from Johnson County, you're certainly going to like watching him. Again, mentioned Washburn, but Caleb Duncan from Golden West Community College, he was out here for the NBC, showed well. But the pitching is going to be a couple of arms that are going to be very exciting for our fans to see. That stay tuned on that on social media, but you're going to see some velocity coming out of the Shockers this year.
So what have you learned about the transfer portal, and what's the best strategy? Where have you found success?
Yeah, we're finding success in the program or the players that were at the Power 5 schools who didn't quite get the opportunity that they wanted. That's kind of been our thing so far. I think if you look at what the Power Fives are doing right now is they're getting in the middle of the Conference Player of the Year from the Western Athletic Conference or the West Coast Conference. You're seeing a lot of the first team, if not conference players of the year, and the mid-majors going upward to the Power Fives. We found success this summer in guys who, and we really wanted to target experience and guys who had success at Power 5 levels but didn't quite get the opportunity that they wanted. So you can find a home here at Wichita State. You know, if you are a Washburn and you had your 130 at-bats, you can say, well, if I go to Wichita State, I've got a clear opportunity for 250 at-bats and maybe a different relationship with a coach, who knows. So that's what we have found. But, Paul, I think the biggest thing for us, and any coach is going to tell you this, but we didn't have any portal activity last year at all. We had one player who walked on out of the portal. That was it. It was entirely junior college, keep our players retained, and then bring in the high school players. This year it's been a different arena with the Wichita Collective, with the growingness of our Alston funding. You know, we have been put into an arena now. Wichita State's a very cost-effective school and institution, and if you're looking at sophomores or juniors, you know, it's not very expensive to live off campus here. The help that we've received from our supporters through the collective has changed our thing entirely, and I think that's why you're seeing this recruiting class, which is going to be an extremely deep team on the field. It's going to be a really challenging opportunity for our players to get on the field. It's going to be really competitive this fall.
So you led me perfectly into the next topic. Yeah, big part of your summer has been meeting fans, talking about name, image, and likeness. How are you describing its importance?
Yeah, and you know, it's so easy for me to express this to the fans because it's the truth of where we're coming from. You know, there are different sports where all players receive a full ride. So, you know, in that case, or if you're in a Power 5 baseball school, when you hear NIL, it can leave a sour taste in your mouth because all you feel like you're doing is throwing money into a collective that's just going to hand some player a check. And that's not how it works, particularly for college baseball. With us, with 11.7 scholarships to divvy out for 40 players, you're talking about most players on average are on 31% as their scholarship. So for us, NIL has changed our deal entirely because it has given us an opportunity to be able to contribute to funding for players for their meals or for their housing. And it's enabled us to be able to be much more successful with what we're packaging. We're getting closer to that finish line of being able to offer kids close to a full ride. And that's what's put us into the arena this year that we were not in last year. So thank you to the fans and supporters.
So you are active on social media, you cooking hot dogs at the NBC World Series, the fan interaction part of the job. Why do you enjoy that?
Well, I think it is the job, you know, and I think it's the responsibility of the head coach. And, you know, I'm here to represent Wichita State, and I'm here to support Kevin and the administration and to defend the fact that they hired the right coaching staff who's going to make Wichita State better. And I just feel like my job is to get out with the fans. But also, you know, I was bopped over the head with Coach Stevenson and Brent. Like, hey, you want to win in Wichita, get out in the community. And that's right up my alley. I think if you want support, and this is the message that we tell our kids, but if you want to fill up those stands, or if you want NIL support or Alston support or any support in your life, it's not going to come to you. You have to go out and earn it. And we want our fans to know how appreciative we are of the support that we get. Partnering with the NBC and the hot dog thing. We had 100 people in line for a hot dog for a midnight game. I could not believe it. And that just speaks to Wichita and the baseball community that it is. I love it, though. I love interacting with the fans. And I think how you grow and build programs is you create and find as many infantry or foot soldiers as you can and amass them and create a movement. And that's what we're trying to do here. But we know at the end of the day, we've got to put a good product on the field that's competitive. And we feel like we're off to a good start with that.
We'll wrap it up. Do you have a book recommendation or something you're watching on Netflix? Is there anything away from baseball that you've occupied your mind with this summer?
Well, I've listened to it now 2 more times, and it is a plug for a friend, but the book is amazing. And since I've listened to it or read it 5 times combination, but Operation Pineapple Express, about a group of people who were just not they were willing to do one thing, and that was take care of their teammates. The author is Scott Mann. It's a really, really extremely powerful book about getting our allies out of Afghanistan. Just an incredible book from an incredible author, an incredible friend. I would plug that all day long, and we were fortunate enough that he actually spoke to our team last year about the impact of team and putting the needs of the team above your own. And that book is about as team as it gets, Operation Pineapple Express.
By Scott Mann?
Scott Mann, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann.
Okay, excellent. Brian Green, it is almost time for Shocker Baseball to get back out there for fall practices. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Paul. Go Shocks!
Great insight as always. Thanks for listening to the Roundhouse podcast, courtesy of Wichita State University Strategic Communications. We encourage you to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. You can always find more Roundhouse content at GoShockers.com.
Down to a 3-2 pitch with 2 men on, 2 outs in the ninth. The stretch by Tyler Green. Here it comes. Struck him out! A no-hitter for Tyler Green! A strike 3 call on the outside corner, and Tyler Green has pitched the 4th no-hitter in Wichita State history, the 2nd in as many years, as he joins fellow classmate Charlie Gingrome as the author of a Wichita State no-hitter, and in the process struck out a career-high 13, including all 3 outs in the 9th inning. Tyler Green completes a no-hitter, and Wichita State defeats New Mexico 12-0